Look at CP being absolutely massive brainy guys. Give him a round of applause, honestly. Ethan, Lisa struggling, I think so. Alright. I think. Can we all hear me? Are we all there? Perfect. Everyone ready to do this? Give this music a pause. Alright. So, I'm very, very excited to be doing this as the first coaching event of the Discord. The first weekly coaching event of the Discord. I kind of yoinked it just so that I could get the pick of what I wanted to do. But music's still going. What do you mean? I paused it. It should be paused. It's paused on my screen, my side. You're scaring me, CP. You're scaring me so much right now. But yeah, I decided that the topic I was going to do was Rocket League's mentality labyrinth. Essentially, you can still hear it. What? I've literally paused it on my side. Ow. That makes no sense. I'm just do this. Just going to do this. Remove. Okay. Right. You shouldn't be hearing it now, so. No, there's no music. No, that's fine. I don't want music right now. No, we're all good. We're good. Okay, all right. So, the reason that I decided Rocket League's mentality labyrinth was due to the fact that a mental game of Rocket League players is not always the easiest, and it's not always the highest rated skill that we have. Everyone's just more focused on the ability to flip reset and ceiling double tap musty kind of. Yeah, it's just that, you know. That's unfortunately where we're at as a community, and I think it's really important that we focus on the mental of the game, because at the end of the day, the mental is what controls everything, right? If you aren't having a bad day, you're not able to hit your shots, and you're going to get more frustrated, and it's just an endless cycle. So I decided this, and let's jump right into it. So a little bit about me. I started playing Rocket League in 2017. Just invited by a mate, you know, didn't really think much of it. And then from there to now, I've accumulated about 6,200 hours. And that is across playing just on my ace, to playing with friends, to coaching. A large portion, I'd say about 40% of those hours is coaching. That 6,200 hours is purely from Steam. But yeah, for the most part, I've done my fair share, right? I've peaked 1520. I'm not the most mechanically gifted player, nor am I the best, but I have done a lot of time, and I have been observant during my 6,200 hours. By the beard. Thank you, CV. I appreciate that. Maybe I'll come and give you my CV in a moment. But yeah, I've coached for about 5 years. I've coached RLCS teams, I've coached high school teams, and I've coached people who just random individuals, even individuals who are trying to play in an RLCS team. And I've also recently started to coach the mental team aspect or team dynamic of RLCS teams. Now, yeah. Okay, I'm recording. I got you. So I've done a lot of coaching, and I'd say I'm not the greatest, but you know, I know my way around. And so I want to focus on approaching Rocket League with the right steps to improve. There's a saying that says if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, it's the short definition of insanity, right? What do we Rocket League players do? We go into free play, we hit the ball around, we try and do some flip resets, and then we go into a game, right? Where's the space to improve in that? It doesn't really bode well for positive movement towards that level of improvement that we're looking for. And I think if we were to be more efficient with our ability to use our free play, to use our custom workshop maps, to use our 1v1s and our replay analysis, it makes a big difference to our steps to improve. One thing I do want to start out saying is that everyone's improving at their own different rates. It took me, I think it was close on 3,000 hours to reach GC, and that was because I took a heck ton of breaks. But at the end of the day, everyone just worries about that hour rate and what your rank is, right? And they're forgetting a very crucial part, is that a lot of people have got different roadmaps of how they play Rocket League and where they come from. So the idea that you have to be a certain rank by a certain time just puts extra pressure on you in the back of your mind, that every time you play the game that you're not ranking up to the way you're supposed to be at a certain hour. That is a worry of some players. Maybe the more experienced, they don't really see that, or some of the other players who maybe don't consider hours to be a telltale sign of your ability to play the game. They just immediately go, you haven't reached GC in 1,500 hours. What are you doing? You'll never go pro. Nah, people just blossom at different times, you know. So I think to make sure that we're not worried about where we are at in our roadmap, rather than just worrying about our improvement, is one of the first steps to improving ourselves. The goal of my session, I want to be focusing on building blocks. I want to be focusing on giving a different outlook on the game, that when people come to our coaches and ask for a coaching session, that they have an understanding of how to implement that, but also have the mentality to look for different perspectives, to look for different understandings when listening to someone who's got different experiences to them, and they're listening to someone who's performed to a certain level of their own Rocket League roadmap, and that person can now learn off that person's experience. The person who's been coached can learn off the coach's experience without having done that full roadmap. Maybe it's not the full thing. Obviously, you're not getting the full roadmap in just one go, you know, but it helps with that perspective training. And I think, in my perspective, Rocket League is a lot of perspective training. The other thing I want to do is just improve the mental fortitude on the field. We get 3 goals scored on us in the first minute, and people are just ready to forfeit. People are just done. They're just like, stuff this game, I'm over it. Let me go and do something else, or let me go and, I don't know, log onto an alt and clip on some golds, you know. Where's the improvement in that? Where's the drive to build something better, rather than just playing the game because we have to play it, you know? We don't want to just play it for the sake of playing it. So the session's agenda are the following. Mental consistency builds habits is number 1. It's a vitally important thing that I think, if we are building a mental consistency that can obtain habits in a very easily and efficient way, it improves our overall game consistency. Number 2, consciously building game sense. If you spend 1,000 hours doing the same thing, expecting to just learn of experience, you might in the future, you know, you learn certain patterns subconsciously, right? For me, I know I'm fairly strong at knowing which 100 boost pads to pick up when they're about to spawn. However, that does backfire when I am halfway across the field grabbing 100. But we won't talk about it. It's something that you can do consciously. It's something that you can sit down and say, okay, how do I train myself that I can improve my ability to read the game consciously and make decisions off that conscious effort? The third thing, and while this doesn't really support, it doesn't have a direct line to mental fortitude and the mentality of Rocket League, is the importance of a warm-up routine. And I will go through that when we get there, because I feel like it's a vitally important thing, and it might be a perspective that some of you haven't really thought about. That was actually, I think that was one of my I really enjoyed creating that little section because it's a different perspective that I don't think is commonly made aware to players. Number 4, detachment from the rank, right? People are way too often focused on the fact that my rank is lower than it should be, or my rank is not what it was, or I'm at my absolute peak right now. And, why are we not focused on the ability to play Rocket League? Why are we focused on the little PNG image that comes with the rank? It's just, yeah. And receiving coaching pointers and how to implement them. This, I feel like, is a good step to add to the session's agenda because of the fact that we are building this coaching thing and we are a new scene. We don't really have that many coaches, and the coaches that we do have, we're trying to build an awareness for coaches. We're trying to get more coaches in. We're trying to teach people. We're trying to get a higher skill level. And it's very easy for someone to hear a coach, having never heard one before, and think that the coach is absolutely flaming them. It's not what we intend to do, and sometimes wording can come across in the wrong manner, and that's not what we mean as a coach. So making sure that we understand the way to receive those pointers is a very important thing. And number 6, take a break. That goes without saying. You can't play this game full stop, non-stop, every single day, 24/7, and expect to not get burnt out. But yeah, let's dive right in. So number 1 of the consistency building habits, right? How can we build new habits over dying habits, right? This is something I think will trouble people every single rank because everyone's doing some level of the game on autopilot. And so it's important to be able to know how to build over old habits, or at least build over habits that are not required for at that rank. And that's one thing I do want to highlight, is that this session that I'm giving today is trying to accommodate for all ranks. This is something that all ranks can sort of focus on, that at each level there is at each rank there's a level of understanding that can be done, even if it's extremely basic, from knowing when someone in SSL is going to boom the ball cross field versus when someone's in diamond and knowing when they're going to miss it, right? Being able to expect things from certain ranks and knowing how to deal with it is something that I'm trying to cover in this session. So I focus on mental triggers. What is a mental trigger? Let me explain, right? To explain a mental trigger, it is being able to play the game with the repetition of correcting old habits or correcting current habits as they happen. As an example, here's a moment of me playing a game, right? I missed the shot. We're going to leave it there. That's all we're going to leave. We know the impossibility of hitting open net goals, right? I call this a visual trigger, right? The visual trigger is the fact that I can see my teammate doesn't have the angle on this ball to do anything with it. I've got an open net. I can see that I'm going to beat Blakeo, and so I decide to go, right? This is something that'll work diamond through to gold through to GC. At your own level, you need to be looking at your own types of mental triggers that are ways that you question yourself in your brain as to whether or not you should go before you have the chance of hesitating, right? Because often we're creating these mental triggers as we're in the situation. So realistically speaking, we'll be getting to this point right here and being like, oh, should I go? Shouldn't I go? And you'll hesitate, right? When you higher levels up, you're able to read the game a lot faster, and that means that you need to be having the mental triggers to see them early. And those mental triggers are what on the field prompts your brain to ask certain questions, right? And being able to react and answer those questions on the spot, right? So how do we actively train this? Well, there's a few things. Positional is the one. So because this is a visual trigger, it's a positional trigger, right? Seeing the fact that I have a better position on the ball to DNC, right? I also have a positional advantage over Blakeo on their team, and the fact that Woozy is the opposite corner, right? That's the positional part of the awareness of this field. And to build awareness is to be able to monitor the entire field at the same time. And this happens at all ranks, right? The next trigger, for me, nameplates. People don't understand how overpowered understanding or seeing nameplates are. Here in the situation, yes, it's my turn to go. I'm never going to beat blue team to this ball, right? Again, I can see the fact that he's going to boom it. I'm just going to fall back. This can happen at any rank, right? Some ranks, yeah, he's not going to hit this off the wall, but that's where the exception comes in. That's where the little extra additional information that each player at their own rank needs to be able to identify when they're going through these things. And this is something that you can pick up off of when you go through our coaches. They're going to be able to pick up this stuff for you when they see that you are between, I don't know, D3 up to GC3. They're going to know at roughly at which rank where players are doing what. This being C3, they're going to know this player's probably going to boom this off the backboard. He's got the skill to, so just fall back. As soon as I'm in the situation that I see a nameplate, right, being a problem or being closer to the ball than me, I use it as a trigger that I'm asking the questions in my head. Where are my teammates? How much boost do they have? What is the car language of my teammates? And what is the car language of my opposition, right? I turn around here because I see the fact that this blue teammate or this blue guy, Tay, he's got a better angle on the ball and he's going to generate power off this ball, right? So I turn around. But you need to make sure that you know, this is where the coaching comes in, is that there's certain situations where it's a touch and go that you can actually get in front of the ball. And there's times where you should just play time, right? This is one of those triggers. So using nameplates is an extremely very good thing. An audio cue, right? I want you guys to listen to this because this is, I was going through this with someone the other day, and I think it is also a very underrated form of trigger. Actually, it's not good, it's an audio. So you can hear the teammate off to the right. I go for the ball, I smack it at the goal, poke it, shot. This guy goes up. It doesn't end up going well, right? But he didn't account for the fact that there was an engine noise off to his right. If we go back to this other teammate's perspective and we go back a split second, he would have hit this ball straight to this teammate, but JRM intercepted it. Sometimes you don't have the angle on the ball, and sometimes you have to give it to your teammates, right? So it's important that you use all bits of information given to you, one of them being audio, one of them being visual, and one of them being positional, right? And these are just examples of triggers, right? For me, these are what I came up with. For you, you might have a different type of trigger. You might say, when I'm turned in facing a certain angle, can we hear the audio? Why is it not coming through? Let me try something. I will do, I'm actually just going to share the video in the chat because then people can hear it and they can go over it a few times, right? Yeah, this one here. Copy link, share. Okay. So if I can, I don't even know if I can share I can't share my screen because I've shared my, okay. So go and watch that video, right? I will find a way to get this recording in. I don't know why. It's probably because I'm using the virtual camera, but you can just go and listen to this video and listen to the audio cue off the right side, right? Having that car on the right side and seeing the nameplate of your teammate go behind the player is the kind of triggers that we need to be looking at when we're looking to improve in certain situations, right? So sometimes they have a better angle. Habits require constant correction and attention to detail. Yeah, it should be fine for the recording. Should be. So habits, the only way to build the habit is by repeating it, right? So we've gotten down the point of correcting it in game, right? But we need to be able to repeat it or find the most efficient way to repeat it, right? So I've got a little table here. Your past, your present, and your future to be able to repeat these habits. Have your gameplay reviewed by yourself or have it given to you, but have the review done to you through a coach, right? Come to our coach and get a situation where you're in a point that you feel that maybe you should have been aware of it. You know, you end up going for the ball and you end up overshooting it, or you get absolutely beaten in the air because you've gone up way too late. And those are the kinds of triggers that you should be saying, I shouldn't have gone. I would have seen that he was going to beat me, right? You go through those replays, you understand why those triggers should be present in the game, and seeing that will put it into the back of your mind that when you're playing again and you see that situation, hopefully your mind kicks in and it goes, I've seen this before. Let me not turn around. Let me turn around. Let me just leave. Let me go back and defend, right? As an example. In the present, actively watch for those triggers mid-game, right? Act upon instinct. Don't hesitate. As I've said before, players hesitate way too often. We all feel it. We've all done it, right? So when you are in a situation where you're not sure if you should go or shouldn't go, my opinion, trust whatever the first decision is that you decide on, right? If you say I'm going to go and then you second guess, right? Second guess only once. After that, you shouldn't be making any more decisions. You should be allowed to second guess once, right? Should be able to go, no, turn around, go back, or turn around, actually, no, I can go for this. But as soon as you start doing a double second change, that's where you're going to get caught. If it doesn't work out, oh well, you learn, right? You may get scored on, you may end up losing the game, you may end up losing the MMR, right? But at the end of the day, you're taking something valuable out of that game. The whole point is about learning. The whole point is about taking each game at face value, that we are building ourselves to improve in the long term rather than just winning the very next game, right? In future, should the trigger result in an unfavorable situation, you reinforce to yourself what should have happened in that moment. I was going through a coaching session earlier where I was saying, if you end up getting beaten in a game of 1v1, like you get scored on in a 1v1 or 2v2 or 3v3, whatever, and you know it's your fault, watch the replay back. We're just so instantly quick to click the skip button that we're just like, nah, get rid of it. I don't want to see the fact that I messed up. Have a look at it. Watch the replay. Say, okay, what did I do wrong? He ended up getting faster up the wall, or he ended up getting the 100 boost. I should have turned around there. In the moment, in the middle of the game, you have a mini replay analysis that you can do for every time you get scored on. And at the end of the day, the only time the game is really a problem is when you get scored on. If you don't get scored on, it's water under the bridge. We can come back to it at a later stage when you want to refine and perfect your gameplay, right? But for the most part, use those little replay sections, right? It is insanely powerful that you can do. You can use it as a way to understand the tendencies of certain players, right? A player has a tendency to flick, means that you need a fake challenge, right? And if you see that from a replay analysis or from a little snippet of where they score the goal, then you go, okay, cool, he likes to flick early, or he likes to flick high, or he likes to fake, things like that. You can pick up tendencies when you're not focused on the game. You can focus on those tendencies and then understand those tendencies when you start playing against them, and you can have a way to turn the game around. The next session, or the next point, is warm up and training. And a lot of players don't do this, surprisingly. And I know, because I was there once. I used to just log onto the game and just play competitive, right? And while this doesn't seem like it's on the topic of the mentality, there's a point that I want to cover, right? If we're doing our warm-up training, right, we build a level of consistency that is off the field, where we have a lot more time to play with the ball. So this is roughly what I do, and this is what I'd suggest, right? Free play as your first one. But guys, free play is not just go into the field and hit the ball around for the first 2 minutes while you're searching. Free play is dedicate 30 minutes, an hour, 20 minutes, a decent amount of time where you are not searching for a game, right? To hit the ball around the field as hard as possible, as fast as possible, and with as efficient use of, I wouldn't say necessarily as efficient use of boost, but you want to try and be quick to the ball, right? You want to make yourself awkward. Building yourself in those awkward situations and understanding how to move your car in those those moments is a good way to practice getting out of awkward situations in an actual game, right? It also builds your mechanics. And to clarify, mechanics have different meaning, right? Mechanics to most people and to the average Rocket League player, in my opinion at least, is can you flip reset 3 times? Then you have mechanics. No. Mm-mm. No. Mechanics for me is can you hit the ball hard enough with enough accuracy from anywhere on the field and a solid enough way to recover after the shot or after the hit, right? Can you do what you want to do on the ball at any point on the field, right? And the only way to train that is by being speedy and free play. Why? Because you practice coming off the ceiling when the ball's not even near you and you wouldn't really have the kind of boost in game to be able to go for it. You just go for it, right? Because in that you're training the ability to make the better touch in an awkward situation. And when I refer to mechanics, mostly in the session, but also as a coach, for me, I'm normally referring to what I'd like to call it the consistency mechanics, right? We have flashy mechanics and we have consistency mechanics, right? The flashy mechanics is can you do TikTok clips, right? And freestyle. And the consistency mechanics is can you do what you need to do in any moment, no matter where, consistently, right? Workshop training maps for those who are on Epic Games and Steam. Custom training for those who are on console. Unfortunately, we can't get the workshop maps to console, but the day they come, this is one of those things that you should be doing. Using custom training maps and workshop maps to practice a certain mechanic, dribbles, redirects, ceiling shots, air dribbles, flicks, things like that, recoveries, saves, backward saves, things like that, is a good way to build consistency. Now, a lot of people will just jump into, say we're doing a custom training, right? And you've got 8 shots in the pack and you go and you score all 8. Done. Cool. No. You should be doing the same shot multiple times over that you can consistently score the goal in various different ways, right? You can hit the ceiling, you can hit the redirect using a pre-flip, cool. Can you hit the redirect coming from a different angle? Can you hit the redirect with a different side of your car? Can you double the redirect, psycho into a redirect, double, whatever? Can you change it up? Can you be creative with it? Same thing with workshop maps. If you're doing something like a dribble 2 overhaul, where it's purely focused on dribble, practice your flicks at the end. Practice your drift dribbles. Mix it up, right? The only way you build consistency is by testing and pushing yourself past the boundary, right? The third and final thing, right, is ones. I know we all groaned when we said that because we all hate ones, right? For the majority, those psychos out there who like ones, I don't know who you are, but there's some of them out there. No, but ones is a really important way to learn. The reason that ones is important is because, and I know that this is ironic coming from me because I'm currently sitting Diamond 2 because I hate ones myself, but it is a very important thing to play ones if you're really looking to get better, because you spend a lot more time on the field with the ball and with one other person, and it builds your ability to beat an individual, right? Because all that 2v2 is and 3v3 is just a bunch of 1v1s, right? It's just numerous 1v1s time after time where you have to practice being able to out 50 them. You practice being able to get to the ball faster than them. And you practice being able to push your mechanics and your accuracy while under pressure of someone threatening your ball, right? This is not something that happens in workshop maps and free play, right? So again, no matter what rank you are, this is something that will work for you. The best way to go about playing ones, in my opinion, right, just to make sure you reduce the possibility of you throwing your controller through the wall or your keyboard through your monitor, is turn your chat off, right? Don't bother seeing the other person's chat or saying thanks if they had to say nice shot. Play the game, right? Have some fun with it. Basically, I'm saying you must use 1v1 as part of your warm-up, and if you really care about 1v1, then, I mean, you probably already a player that you like 1v1s, as well as the fact that 1v1 rank is not something that you're going to throw away easily. So you're going to do your warm-up routines. You're going to do that sort of stuff beforehand. But if you don't care about ones, why not just use it as a way to get better, right? So what if you're Diamond 2? So what if you're Plat 3? So what if you're GC on your other things and your Gold 1 and your 1s? Like, yeah, it'd be a bit outbalanced, but it's a good way to get better. It's a good way to train your ability to beat a player. As long as you're focusing on the ability to improve, I think 1v1 is an amazing way to get that improvement. Now, you're probably saying, newsflash for you, Moose. You know this. How's it going to help us? Right. Let me get you guys with some stats, right? I'm going to take a random threes game that I played recently, right, as an example. This is what the possession of the team looked like, right? My team was orange, so we had 52.03% of the possession. Now, by possession, it is basically saying when a person of that team touches the ball, it's considered their possession until such time as the opponents touch the ball, right? And that is considered then their possession. So, if this is a random threes game, right, and we could say that this is on average every single threes game, or at least close to every single threes game, we can assume that of that 52%, 33% of that time is you touching the ball, because there are, after all, 3 people on the field on your team, which means that you're only touching the ball 33% of the time of 52%, right? Which means as a whole, you're only touching it that small little section. So what are we doing in the rest of this time? What are we doing? Yeah, it'll change from here and there, and as a whole, stats will prove that, you might end up touching the ball more in one game because maybe you're more aggressive, or you've been on the defense for so long, or you know how to hold the ball. But as an average, we'll take that, right? So what are we doing? We're rotating and positioning, right? We're trying to make sure that we're in the right position to be able to support teammates, to get back for defense, to play different angles, to get demos, things like that. We're finding boost, right? Albeit sometimes the corner boosts. And we're working on the recoveries, right? And if you are as half average as I am in recoveries, you'll probably spend a good 12% of that time on your roof of your car. So that's what we're doing in the other percentage of the game, right? Which means that if we're not warmed up, means slow rotations and car control, right? Slow rotations means you're not in the position to be able to support the team and hit the shot that you have to hit, right? If you're not able to be in the right position, it means that you're hitting the ball with difficult angles that you're not generating power, right? Difficult angles, lacks power, whiffs, sending it to the ceiling, giving up possession, things like that. Lacking power means frustration because you're not able to hit the ball properly. You're like, I should be able to hit this ball so much better, or I should have hit that open net, or I should have done XYZ, right? That frustration leads to drop in mental. And the cycle repeats. And you're just going to go round and round, and this frustration is just going to get more and more and more, right? That is if we are not building the consistency from doing warm-up and training, right? You need to be able to warm up and build your consistency in all aspects of the game before you play. If you're really, really working hard on your ability to improve in this game, and you're trying to get to a very decent rank, right? Refining and perfecting is something that you're going to spend a long time doing, right? And a good way to do that is to build good, consistent habits in all aspects of the game, so that if you are mechanically gifted, right, which a lot of players are, a lot of players in the South African scene are mechanically gifted, right? If you are not in the right position, those mechanics mean nothing. So when someone says to me, Moose, what's better, mechanics or positioning or game sense? Kind of both. Like, you need mechanics to be able to hit the ball, but if you're not in the right position, you're not going to have the ball. So what good are the mechanics? And vice versa, if you have good positioning, but you can't hit the ball straight, or you're not consistent with your mechanics, yeah, cool, you're in the right position. Whoopie do, you know? It, they need to be going hand in hand. You need to be working on both of them. Some players are more mechanically gifted, right? And those mechanics will carry them through. If you're awkward, you end up relying on your mechanics to be able to save you. If you are more of a positional player and you're almost positionally perfect, it means that your shots are not that difficult to hit, right? Or a lot less difficult to hit, at least, meaning that you don't need as much mechanics. But at the end of the day, they need to be working in tandem, right? Number 4, detachment from the rank and attachment to playing the game of Rocket League. Guys, it's just a game, all right? For some, which is understandable because for some of you, it's your job. But, 9 to 5 jobs even require some level of joy. It's a lot because I actually worked a 9 to 5 and I hated I hated it, to be very fair with you. It was not it. But that's besides the point. Guys, it's a game. Ranked is just spicy casual, right? It's just a PNG image attached to casual, right? That rank is not, it is not an accurate representation all the time of your ability to play the game, right? And I'll explain why I'm saying this, because some people will be like, oh, but if I can survive in Champ 2, then it means I'm Champ 2. Yes, but you have things like skill ceilings and skill floors, right? And those are massively affected by your mental, right? Stop worrying about that PNG image, guys, please. It is not the be all and end all of your ability to play Rocket League. If you put your time and your energy from worrying about the current game that you're playing as to whether or not you're going to win that MMR, right? Or, oh no, I've lost my 8th game. Yeah, it's tough. I get that. But if you just go in and you play the game, cool, learn something out of it. Next game, maybe it was just rough teammates. Or next game, you start struggling. Oh no, you've lost 16 games. Maybe you need to go and see a coach. Maybe there's something that is a fundamental issue, right? But at the end of the day, don't let it pin you down, because it is not something that is worth your mental over, all right? Now, moving on to receiving coaching tips and pointers, right? And how to implement them, right? Coaches are there to help, right? Some coaches offer more mechanical advice and some coaches offer more rotational advice, and there's a combination, right? But it's important to take their advice and take the experience and experiment with it, right? Make something new, right? They give you advice, take it, do it, perfect it, right? Try a variation of it. See what they're saying, work with it, create it, make it like a puzzle, right? You want to figure out ways that you can take what someone gives you and improve it. They give you an answer, you take that answer, you use the fundamentals of that answer to build something new and creative. And I would almost say that that's something that a player like Zen has done, right? When he was in his peak, and maybe even still in his peak, the way that he uses his mechanics on the field, right, is essentially a revolutionary way to play the game, right? And that's just one example. There were other players, Squishy at the time when he was in his peak, things like that, right? So treat the game as follows. The game and its players are a puzzle, right? Your abilities are the puzzle pieces, and you're solving to create the picture. The end goal of that puzzle is what you want to be able to play like, right? Is the rank and the skill at which you want to play. And the coaches are the example images. They're the ones who've done the roadmap. They're the ones who have gone and put the effort in and come out and said, right, let's put it into English. This is what you should be doing, right? Be creative with it. Choose ways and fit your puzzle pieces in to be able to figure out a way to create a picture that is for you, right? Mend your puzzle pieces, change them up, figure out what fits in the jigsaw puzzle, right? And lastly, right, take a break, guys. Like, burnout, the effects of burnout is something that is very rarely spoken of, I think, especially in esports, because we all just sit on our brains and on our computers and just use our brains, and apparently that's not enough to create burnout. It's a lot more mentally draining than you think. If any of you have, I'm sure many of you have played like an RLCS tournament where you are playing Rocket League for 4 to 6 hours and you are having to endure long breaks in between games because you've won, I don't know, 2 rounds and now you've got to wait for the opposition to be able to catch up, things like that. You get to the end of that and you're actually physically tired. Like somehow you're physically drained, you're mentally just like blanked out, you're spaced, right? So here's the effects of burnout, right? Taking a look at how an unrealistic rank up graph would look like, it's just a straight line, right? There's no dips, there's no changes in the consistency, it's just straight up, and it's an impossible task, right? So don't think that your graph has to look like that, right? Make sure that you're gracious to yourself, right? What a realistic rank up graph should look like is this, right? You have your rising where you are starting to play really well. Maybe you lose a couple games, but as you keep going, you end up winning games, right? You get to your peak. This 0 to 100 being your mental improvement and your ability, like your MMR. You're just going up, right? You then reach a rank that peak where you start dipping, right? That is the beginning of either burnout or you're just adjusting to the new rank and speed, right? So you're gonna dip, right? You're gonna dip quite a bit because you've been playing for a long time. Depending on how your play sessions go, if you play for multiple hours at a time, you're gonna end up getting yourself to that point pretty quickly, right? Then you're climbing out of the ladder and getting through that experience rank that you've been through. If you've hit GC once before and it's the first time, and then you come out the next season and suddenly you're back to Champ 1 and you're like, brother, this is not it. This is not the rank I should be in, right? That mental affects you. Being in a lower rank purely by being there, knowing that you've been higher before, is something that negatively pulls you down, right? Because every single time you play, you're just like, oh, these absolute idiots, what are they doing? I shouldn't even be here. Yeah, it happens. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. It happens to everyone, right? And so we need to be able to learn to push through it. And then after you've come out of your burnout and you've started getting through the session, right, or the section of the rank that you've been climbing up through, you start building new habits that you've learned from coaches and you've applied the routine. And that's where you start peaking again, right? You start getting through that old ranks peak. And this is roughly what an improvement graph will look like, right? Very average, right? So if we have to have a look at the long-lasted effects of a burnout, right? Your play, this green graph is the exact same as the rank, the graph in the previous screen, right? But the red one is your mental state, right? And I've specifically started up here just as a point of reference, right? So you get up there, you start playing in the highest rank, and your mental state is still climbing, right? Maybe it hasn't been the greatest, but you're still climbing. You start dropping. It'll take a moment before you feel the drop in your mental, right? But your mental will always drop lower than what your in-game performance is in your MMR, right? Once you get through there, and then you start climbing, it's because you've now hit your ceiling, your skill floor. Now, your skill floor is essentially the lowest rank that you play at comfortably, even on your worst of worst days, right? That is, if you are GC, you can probably comfortably play with half your brain off, one eye closed, and one hand on the controller, while drinking coffee, right? You can probably do that at C1, right? Maybe, if that's how wide your skill floor and skill ceiling is, right? Your skill ceiling being your highest rank, skill floor being your lowest, right? You're going to have a mental drop throughout your next rise if you're not careful, right? You're still going to feel tired and drained out from playing, even though you might be improving, right? And then when you dip your next time, that's when it's going to hit you even harder because you're already trying to get out, and then it's just going to plummet, right? So it's good to be aware of the fact that your mental state might be deteriorating a lot faster than your current ability to play. So to prevent the burnout, a good thing to do is to see the signs, right? If you're just playing Rocket League because you can or because you have to, right? Take a break, right? And by break, I mean take 3 days, take a week, right? Coming back and ended up versing, I don't know, a champ one who's just suddenly ranked up is not the end of the world, right? You come back, like I said, at your own rate. Everyone improves at their own rate, right? You take a break, right? You stay at that MMR, right? Don't look at anything Rocket League related. Let your mental state recover. Let it zero itself to where you were. And being able to climb through that, it'll be a lot of a shorter period than it was in the previous graph, right? If you're playing on autopilot, right? If you're just going through the motions, you're going into rotations and you're just letting things happen and you end up overshooting balls or missing a ball or whatever, might be a sign of burnout, or it might be the fact that you just haven't been used to that situation. Playing sluggish, decision making is slow, like take some time to yourself, let yourself recuperate, play a different game, go outside and touch some grass, as we all say, like go and see the world for a little bit, if you're easily irritable in ranks, right, in games, if your teammate cuts you off once, how many times do you cut your teammate off? More than one time in a game, and maybe they get the same irritability as you've gotten from them cutting you off as they do from you. You just have to try and take things with grace, right? If you experience a massive drop in rank, right? I'm currently in a burnout, and I'm saying this from experience, and I'm not just saying this for content, right? I am in a burnout. Why? Because I was at the end of last season, I was C3, high C3 and threes from solo queue, and I was doing damn well on EU. I had queued on SA only for twos and gotten high GC, right? And then this season, I was like, cool, I'm playing the best Rocket League of my life. Let me go and jump into EU twos and threes with SA, right? I'm now sitting a solid C2. It's can't escape that. But I know that I'm a GC level, right? And my skill ceiling, I can play at a GC. Right now I'm at my bottom of my lowest of my low, right? And so for me, it's going to be take a mental break, take a break from Rocket League, take a chill, right? Because sometimes taking a moment is more important than just pushing through the burnout, right? And it's a good thing, especially if you are competing in a tournament Rocket League, right? In a tournament environment, it is a good thing to be able to time your breaks with the season, right? You finish an RLCS season, take a break, right? That's a lot of Rocket League that you've been playing. You're probably close and burnt out. And if you can time it nicely, you'll end up finding that when you start the next season, you'll be fresh, right? When you start playing with your team, you'll be mentally there, you'll be mentally ready. And if your entire team is doing it, you guys will be firing on point, right? So it's a good thing to try and work on that timing. But for now, I would like to say thank you very much for everyone who's pitched through. There's quite a few of you here. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your time. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the future sessions. There's a lot of coaches who are coming through who are going to be covering some very important things. I know some of the topics coming up, but I'm not gonna share it. I'm not gonna break the radio silence, and I'll let them have their moment. But definitely pull through for the next few. I'm hoping that the session has helped you guys a lot. If you have questions, please feel free to type it in the chat. But yeah, for the most part, thank you very much, and yeah, have a good rest of your evening.